All right, well, let's start to tease who we think might fit into that Mercedes seat that Lewis Hamilton will be vacating after the 2024 season. A name that comes to mind, the Schumacher name, I think a lot of people might forget, and I think a lot of people might not give this guy enough credit. Michael Schumacher helping build the Mercedes program that was so successful when Lewis Hamilton came in and replaced him after he retired for good at the end of the 2012 season. That's something that I think gets lost in the comparison sometimes between our two seven-time world champions is the fact that Lewis actually replaced Michael when he came to join Mercedes in 2013. That was Michael Schumacher's seat that he vacated to retire after the end of 2012. Now we have Mick Schumacher, his son, who came into Formula One with Haas, spent 2 years there, showed a little bit of improvement in 2022, but not enough to retain the seat. This is going to be his second year on the sidelines in Formula One, but he does have a relationship with Mercedes, just as his father did. It would be poetic in some ways for him to take that seat back from Lewis Hamilton. But Kobe, we'll start with you. Do you think that that would be even a realistic option to begin with, Mick Schumacher back at Mercedes in 2025?
I mean, he's already inside the organization as a reserve driver. So if you can't really find anybody else who fits the mold for 2025, you can just plug and play Mick Schumacher. I think Mick Schumacher definitely deserves another chance to show what he can do in Formula One. I think Mercedes will be a really great option for him. I know he's keeping himself busy this year in 2024. He's going to be driving for Alpine in the World Endurance Championship, going to have a chance to compete for overall wins, especially the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So and then at the other race weekends, he's going to be with Mercedes as well as a reserve driver in case Hamilton or Russell can't go. You have Mick Schumacher there to fill in. So I think right now Mick Schumacher it's a possibility he could get the call in 2025. But there's a lot of other really good drivers who are currently on the Formula One grid that are going to be chasing after that Mercedes seat. So Mick Schumacher is just one of many options that Mercedes is going to have. But it would not surprise me if they decided to give Mick his second stint in F1.
Yeah, when I first heard about, this opening within Mercedes after Lewis Hamilton leaving, one of the first people I thought of was Mick Schumacher because, he's already the reserve driver. He's done quite a lot of testing for Mercedes this past season as well. And they've already got a good relationship. So he would definitely be one of the options that they could consider. But as Kobe pointed out, they do have other options. And, I feel like he's not exactly their first option. If other things fail, then they might come back to him. But he is a talented driver, and I think he does deserve another spot in F1.
It's so tricky because I'm sat here and I was just thinking about if it could be Schumacher, and then my mind started to drift to other drivers that we'll get to because I know the next question is coming up about it, and it's making me go mad because I'm smiling because there's so many opportunities that I'd love to see alongside George Russell. There's so many drivers that would be so good as that battle teammate, and I don't know, it's so hard to tell. And I think Schumacher is the safety option. They've got Mercedes need to play this safe. They've got a whole year now. Realistically, they've got about 7 months to find a replacement because this driver market's going to get very competitive very fast. And they're now sort of, don't forget, we've also got a Red Bull seat open as well with Perez out of contract, and he's not going to stay. And if they are not going to switch over to Danny Ricciardo, which I think they would, then that seat's open too. So Mercedes have got a war on two fronts here. That there's going to be drivers that don't want to go to them and want to go to hold on for Red Bull, but they might want them, but the drivers don't want to tie them down because they might have a Red Bull seat. So we're in for a very difficult time, but I think Mick's going to, as you all say, definitely going to be the safety option. If I don't think he would do. I don't think he would be. But if it did happen, poetic and beautiful, definitely, with the 4-7 on the silver arrow. But he's not my pick. I think he's going to go elsewhere. I think Mick could be in Formula One, but I think he'll go elsewhere.
Yeah, well, I'm with you guys. I think he certainly deserves a second shot. And I know some people say, oh, he just got the ride because his last name. He won an F3 championship, spent 2 years in F2, won an F2 championship. You win an F2 championship, in my mind, you deserve at least 1 or 2 years in Formula One. And Mick got that. I know.
Not in a Haas.
Yeah, but yeah, and there you go. He was in the worst car up until that point, the worst car that Haas had ever put together. I know they took a little bit of a step in the right direction in 22, but you look at where that team is right now. This pattern that Mick had, get in the championship 1 year, win the championship the next. he was never going to win the 2022 World Championship in a Haas, right? You know, I mean, it's a different world when you get to the amount of the gap, the size of the gap between the top teams in F1 and the teams at the back of the pack like Haas. You know, I mean, it was not necessarily a fair shot, I don't think, for Mick to be able to show what he could do. So I'd like to see him in a team like Mercedes. I don't know that they'd be. I mean, I know he has a relationship already with the team, but you know, after 2 years out of the series, would you want to plug him right back into a top team like that? You know, maybe he goes to, I don't know if Williams is going to have a seat available. I know Sargent's kind of on a year-to-year basis. Who knows what Alex Albon's going to do? But we'll just have to wait and see. I would certainly like to see him get a second shot in F1 somewhere regardless. So whether that's with Mercedes or not.